What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel, Citizen Collection. Here to give you guys my journalistic perspectives, my journalistic background, and outlook on all things hip-hop, media, movies, music, whatever you could think of. We'll cover it here: faith, politics, everything. And to start this off, Jack Harlow said he's blacker. He said he's blacker, and what? That is what he recently said on a latest episode of Popcast, which is a New York Times hosted podcast where they discuss music and they interview artists. Mind you, this is coming off the back of Jack Harlow's recently released album entitled Monica, which was a veer in a different direction in comparison to his last album, Jackman. So he's been off the scene for a while. He took a step back, took a break. And it sounds like my boy was out here in love or fell in love and then fell out of love. Either way, he drifted into an R&B slash neo soul type of album. And on Apple Music, it is actually classified as a R&B album. This is not classified as a hip hop album. And if you listen to it, that is on course. That sounds about right. This would not fall in the traditional sense of a hip hop album. He does have a few songs where he is doing the action of rapping, meaning just rhyming words in a similar flow and pattern. But in tradition of hip hop, no, this is not a hip hop album. It is an R&B album. I didn't think that it was good or bad, to be honest. It didn't really move me either way. I honestly listened and I didn't feel anything. I didn't think it was whack, but I didn't think it was good either. I just thought it was just kind of there. It sounded more like background type of music to me. And if I'm listening to from the lens of an R&B album, it did fall a little short, simply because in an R&B album, they're trying to strike at your emotional chords, right? They're trying to make you feel something, or they're showing out their vocal range and their vocal creativity. They're hitting notes in X, Y, and Z, melodizing, harmonizing. And he doesn't do much of that on the album because he's not a true singer in that traditional sense. But again, I don't think it's whack. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good either. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle, like average is what I would say. It's just an average album overall. If somebody loves it, I won't feel away. If somebody hates it, I wouldn't feel away. I just think it's just a pretty average album overall. But he has hits and he has had a decent career at this point, or a good career at this point for sure. So, he has. I do think he's afforded the luxury to make an album that may not be full of hits or be super fire or whatever the case may be, right? Now, in regard to the comment, the reason the internet is in an uproar is because of the comment he made about he got blacker, and the combination of white rapper and the history of white rappers and their tendency and habits to jump into the genre of hip hop, get on, make some songs, and then veer off. Most notably, you can look at Post Malone, who came in with braids and grills, singing White Iverson, making hip hop music, talking about stuff that people in hip hop talk about, right? And then he veered off into making pop and country music. He did a complete 180. There was even a situation where he didn't want to be featured as a freshman on the XXL cover because he stated that he is not a hip hop artist, right? Although he had made his way into the music industry from the back of hip hop. You also have guys like MGK who went the rock rap route. You have guys like Macklemore, right? So there's been a history of white rappers coming into the genre, getting on, and then leaving hip hop behind. And it seems like it can be an easy route for white rappers to get on because obviously in America, the dominant race is white people. Black people are the minority or one of the minority groups, but hip hop is a huge genre of music. So therefore, if you are a white rapper, the dominant race, jumping into a big market of hip hop, where there's a big demographic of white fans, you will more easily get catapulted to the top of the game. And we've seen that happen time and time again. It doesn't mean that you lack skill. It doesn't mean that you're not nice. It just means that you may have an easier route to stardom as opposed to a black rapper, because there are hundreds or thousands of other black rappers, right? So that's just how it goes. And they're all fighting for the same fan base. But Jack Harlow has had good success. I'm a casual fan of Jack Harlow. He's had some good songs I like What's Poppin', Churchill Downs, the Glamorous remix, was Sample, along with some other songs. Like, I think Jack Harlow is nice. He makes good music, good quality hits. His hits are catchy, and I think he can spit. I think Jack Harlow can actually rap. You know what I mean? So I think Jack Harlow is nice, and I think he will have a long career for sure. I think his trajectory is still positive. But in regards to the comment, I got blacker. From my journalistic viewpoint and perspective, what I think people are missing is that Jack Harlow didn't come out and just tweet, I got blacker. He didn't come out and say on a song, I got blacker. If I had to point the finger at anyone, it would actually be the two journalists that he's sitting alongside. They led him into that question or that statement. One journalist started off by saying, hey, usually white rappers have white privilege to make other genres of music. The other guy followed it by saying, to counter that, you actually did something and you went in the opposite direction. And Jack Harlow finished the statement by saying, I got blacker. He kind of just said what they were trying to say, but they were too afraid to say it. They were tiptoeing around it. So he just flat out said it. Yeah, I got blacker, meaning more so I made a genre of music that would be considered more blacker, which is R&B, rhythm and blues, which is a black culture type of genre, black culture music genre. That was a tongue twister. But so that is, if I pointed finger at anybody, it would be the journalist. It wouldn't be Jack Harlow. He didn't seem, because even when he said it or when they asked him, he kind of stepped back and said, I had to think about it. Right. It didn't seem like that was something on his mind or something he had the intention to say, but they led him into that. So again, I will point the finger at the two journalists for kind of setting that up and putting him in a position to have to answer that or say that, even though it didn't seem like that was really on his mind or something he had intention to talk about. But he did say the statement, I got blacker. As a black man, I did not necessarily feel offended. That wasn't my first reaction. Primarily because, one, I find Jack Harlow to be like a humorous type of guy. He, some of his early internet sensations was him going viral for doing skits with Drewski. He doesn't come off as a very serious guy in regards to his humor. He has like this sarcasm and humorous about him. He makes fun of himself and other people. So I didn't take it to be literal, and it didn't offend me. But I did immediately think the internet is going to take issue with this, and it wasn't the wisest statement to make. Although, again, it wasn't his fault. So I just think it wasn't the wisest thing for him to say, but I don't think he had bad intention behind it. I don't even think he really meant it. I don't think he believes he's black or he's blacker because he made an R&B album. I think he just said it because the journalists were too afraid. They were trying to hint at it, and he just said what they were trying to insinuate. Do I feel like people can feel offended about it? These tongue twisters, what's going on, guys? Do I feel like people can feel offended about it? Of course. You can't tell people how to feel. I don't think that is something that, again, is malicious or that he is racist or he's ignorant or anything like that. I just think it was just a statement that he made that he probably could have exercised more wisdom in not saying a statement, because we live in the times of the internet. But do I think this statement is true that he got blacker because he made this album? Absolutely not. Of course not. That's not a thing, right? You're not blacker because you made a rap album or an R&B album. You're not whiter because you made a country album or a pop album. Darius Rucker is a country artist. He isn't whiter than anybody else because he makes country music. So Jack Harlow isn't blacker than anybody else because he makes hip hop or because he drifted off into R&B. He's not blacker. The same way, but people make fun of, like, Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, along with the other guys. People have made jokes like about them having black names or being invited to the cookout because they make music that appeals to black people. That's like R&B music, right? It doesn't make them blacker. They're not black, obviously, but people have joked about, oh, if there was a black drive, we'll take Bieber, or he's invited to the cookout. It's just narratives that get spun on the internet for fun. It's lighthearted, to be honest. But in the sense of, usually, yes, guys like Post Malone, MGK, Macklemore, they have made hip hop music, then left it behind and drifted off into a different genre. Jack Harlow didn't do that. He jumped to another black based genre, which is R&B, which is why he's saying he got blacker. So I do think, shout out to him, I guess, for staying within the realms of black music. But no, it doesn't make him blacker. There's no truth or validity to that. Again, it's not just him. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't become more of any different ethnicity based upon you doing an action of making a certain genre of music. But I don't think he really meant it literally or even believes it. So it's not to be taken too serious, in my opinion. I do think that, he isn't the first. Like, if you listen to a guy like the Canadian singer Remy Shand. If you guys would go check him out, Remy Shand, where is he from? Remy Shand is from Canada. Yeah, correct. Remy Shand is from Canada. If you go listen to a guy like a Remy Shand or Alan Stone who make R&B, neo soul, blues type of music, that's what this sounds like to me. It sounds like that type of music. But people don't make fun of them or call them blacker. And they don't do that because they have came into the genre and there are just white people operating in this genre of R&B, and you know they don't sell themselves as being blacker or anything like that. They probably show their admiration for R&B and black music, and even if they made a hip hop album, that wouldn't mean that again they are blacker than the next person. It just means that they love black music and they are making music that is in the genre of black culture, or a genre of music that is in black culture per se. So I think that's what Jack Harlow was doing. Again, I take this to be sarcasm and not literal. I don't think he had malicious intent. I don't think it was smart or wise to make that statement. But again, if anybody, I point blame at the journalist for leading him into that. And they wanted to say it, but they were too scared. So they kind of forced his hand to say it or address that, even though it didn't seem like it was something that was on his mind or even his intention. But what is more interesting to me is the fact that where does he go from here? You know, Spotify recently released that list of next leaders of hip hop. And if this was 3 years ago, Jack Harlow probably would have been at the top of that list. Coming off a Drake feature, coming off 2 or 3 hit songs, he had momentum. So this is a drift in a different direction. And I wonder if, will this stun him in any way? I don't think so, but it could potentially in terms of hip hop music and him becoming a leader in hip hop. Again, I think he still is in that conversation for the next leader of hip hop, but his next album has to be hip hop. He has to go back to making hip hop songs, hip hop albums, hip hop hits. And if this album that he just released was a fire hip hop album, I think that it would have catapulted him into the leading person of that conversation of the next leaders of hip hop, alongside him and the other guys that they listed on that album. It seems like they kind of replaced the one white rapper with the next white rapper, which was Central C. But again, I think this was a one-off thing for Jack Harlow. He's not a singer at heart. He doesn't really sing. I think his comparisons has always been Drake, somebody who can rap but make pop, R&B, pop and raps type of hits. And he wanted to sing a little bit, so he made his R&B type of album, how Drake makes his R&B type of albums. And I think that is somebody who he's shown that he has admired. And even he said that he went to the school of Degrassi, or graduated from the school of Degrassi, which would be Drake. So I think that similar to how Drake makes rap albums and then Drake also kind of makes R&B sounding albums, I think that is the route that Jack Harlow took here. But again, it doesn't make him blacker, but I don't think it's something to take too serious. But I would be interested to see, is that his intention? Does he have it in him that he wants to be the leader of hip hop, or heralded as the best rapper alive? Because if so, I would recommend him go back, make a fire rap album, and now he is the leading person. He could be the leading person in the catalog, in the category of hip hop, and the next leader of hip hop. I mean, he sells just as well as everybody on that list. Jack Harlow probably could outsell them, and he probably has more hits than those people. So if I was him, I would take a look at the landscape of hip hop and say, hey, there's an opening here that I can infiltrate, and I could probably lead the charge. Let me go back to doing that, as opposed to experimenting with the other genres like R&B or whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I don't think it's super serious. The internet is dragging him forward. It could be a moment. If his next album is hip hop, then this could just be a moment. But if he chooses to try to keep making different genres of music, then I do think that it could potentially stun his growth. But I don't find it to be super serious or anything that we need to be in a frenzy about. I think that it was a moment. I think that it'll pass, and but you guys let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the album. Let me know if you think Jack Harlow can be a leader in hip hop. And I was going to say, let me know if you think he got blacker, but we know that's not true. But you guys leave comments and let me know what you think.